So first up, let's talk about VR because according to Sony, Sony says VR won't be a meaningful part of gaming for years. And if you go down to the article, they did make an official statement about VR. Basically, what they're saying is they don't think VR is going to catch on anytime soon, at least in the upcoming years. But they do believe at some stage VR could be the way we permanently game or the way that a lot of people game in the near future. And honestly, if you ask me personally, I really do think VR could be the future of gaming, and I can definitely see it taking off just because there is something special about VR. I know not everybody likes VR, and I know it's not going to take off with everybody, but I think it can be a very good component to gaming. Do I necessarily think it'll be the primary way we game in the future? Honestly, for me, I personally still don't see a future where the primary way we're going to be gaming exclusively is going to be on VR. I still think there is some limitations in place that just don't allow people to fully commit to VR in the long run. And obviously, some of the biggest problems with VR is the fact that you always have to have the headset on your face at all times. And sometimes, at least with me, I feel like when you want to game and you want to relax. And sometimes you just don't feel like putting the VR helmet on top of your head to actually play a game. And then another thing that kind of sucks about it is when you're inside the VR headset, sometimes it's just not the optimal experience. Sometimes you want to see your surrounding. Sometimes maybe you just want to relax in front of a TV, or for instance, you may want to eat some snacks or talk to friends. But of course, inside of a VR headset is not going to be the optimal way to actually do something like that. And then also, I can see some people just not liking a headset on their face to begin with, and especially when some people actually have some cases of motion sickness and things like that when they're actually in VR. I can just see a lot of people not really gravitating towards VR, but I can see it becoming much more of a staple in our lives when it comes to video games and the way we interact with them. Definitely. I think some of the biggest downsides, at least to VR in its current state, is the fact that the experience is pretty good, but it's not up there with things like traditional gaming. We still have a long way to go. Like, for instance, a lot of the games aren't necessarily the same quality you would get as something as a traditional console. On top of that, at least with Sony's idea of PlayStation VR, they do have a lot of limitations. Of course, PlayStation VR is very, very clunky. It's one of the worst ones, and on top of that, it's one of the oldest VR headsets, and it's really showing its age. I personally own a PlayStation VR headset. I got that thing super cheap, and I can honestly say that it is starting to show its age. And this statement right here pretty much summarizes what Sony feels about VR. They say it could be the future of gaming, and if they're going to really push VR to its limits or push VR farther than what it already has to offer, then obviously or honestly that they really need to work on a PlayStation VR headset too, because like I was saying before, this thing has some pretty bad limitations. First of all, when you actually use this thing nowadays, the resolution in the headset is just not that great. It's kind of grainy, and that's really going to take you out of the immersion with VR. And the whole point, of course, of VR is the fact that you want to be inside of a virtual world. But how can you be inside a virtual world and be immersed when the resolution of the headset is kind of grainy inside? And then, of course, the biggest limitation with Sony's implementation is the fact that that thing is just very clunky to set up. You have like 4 or 5 wires in the way, and sometimes with VR, I don't think the future of VR is going to be a VR world where we're going to be living with wires, because wires really do obstruct our gameplay. Sure, a lot of times you may be sitting down or standing up and really not moving around too much depending on what the game is, but just the fact that you do have wires in the mix when it actually comes to PlayStation VR specifically, I really do think that that's a pretty big downside to this whole thing. And then, of course, another thing that always makes people kind of question VR is the fact that you do have to worry about the price of these things, since these things are fairly expensive, and especially on the Sony side, when you have to accommodate a PlayStation with a PlayStation VR headset, you can see that it gets very expensive buying a PlayStation, and then on top of the PlayStation you do have to buy the headset, which you're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars for. And I don't think a lot of people are ready to make that commitment. Honestly, if Sony's gonna push the future of VR, I think they would do it just like Oculus Quest. If you go over to Oculus Quest, the nice thing about the Oculus Quest is the fact that it is an all-in-one VR option, and I think for a lot of people this is going to be the future of VR. There is something super nice about not having to set up a whole bunch of wires, and also not being tethered to something, and not having to worry about like a gaming PC or a gaming console to actually worry about when it comes to VR. It's very simple to set up, and it's very practical, and you can just play it right there and right then. And I think that's what Sony really needs to focus on if they're going to really push the future of VR, because we can't be stuck with the same VR headset that we've had for many years since PlayStation VR has came out to the market. Because honestly, if they keep using this headset, I don't think VR is definitely going to take off, at least on the Sony side, because this headset is just a little bit too old at this point. And honestly, again, for most people, I would probably say get the Oculus Quest 2, just because it's an all-in-one VR headset that's very easy to set up, and it's very easy to understand. And the nice thing with that is you don't need a separate gaming console or a PC to use that thing, so the cost of that thing is just very easy to actually use. And on top of that, the next one on my list is still about PlayStation VR, because it looks like with an upcoming PS5 you will have to buy an adapter for the PS5 if you want to use PlayStation VR. Now the thing is with PlayStation VR is it'll work on the PS5, however the camera that you have to use for PlayStation VR is the PS4 camera, and apparently the PS4 camera is compatible with the PS5. However, you will need to get an adapter, and apparently this adapter is going to be a free adapter, at least according to this article. And it does say it launches online, and you can get a request form or something if you really want to play your VR headset on your upcoming PS5. You just have to get an adapter that plugs into your PlayStation 4 camera, because unfortunately the PlayStation 5 HD camera accessory does not work with the pre-existing PlayStation VR headset. So it is what it is, but at least they are offering a nice adapter if you do want to get your setup up and running for the upcoming PlayStation 5 console. The next one on my list is actually going to be about game storage and game space, because it looks like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War needs up to 250 gig of space on your PC, and that is absolutely insane. I think everyone will agree with me there. That is a lot of storage for a game. Granted, when you build a gaming PC, you know you're going to need a lot of storage. We're talking terabytes full of storage, especially with gaming PCs. The only way to buy games is digitally, of course, and that 250 gigs is a lot of storage. Honestly, that's just insane to me. Now, they did go on to say that if you just wanted to play, I think, the multiplayer aspect of Cold War, you could actually download it for just 50 gigs if you just want that component alone. But if you want the full experience, like the single player plus the multiplayer, then it will go up to 250 gigs, and that's insane. That can almost entirely wipe out one small SSD. Honestly, who would have actually thought? It just seems like over the years games are going up and up and up. Honestly, I wonder also if the developers behind Call of Duty can actually utilize their game, or actually customize their game enough to where they can actually shrink the file size, because I feel like 250 gigs just doesn't make sense. And I feel like with compression or something like that, they could possibly get the file size down of the whole entire game. But don't look at me, because honestly, of course, I'm not a game developer, so I don't know how hard it is to shrink a file size down. And maybe Call of Duty developers really had no choice when it comes to Cold War, and they're probably like, yeah, we can't really get the file size down any lower than 250 gig with all the 4K textures and everything that this game has to offer. So you're just going to have to eat up 250 gig. And this is something that does kind of concern me on the console front when it comes to games. It looks like as years go on, more and more people are buying games digitally, which of course is probably the future, at least with game consoles. You look at things like the PS4 all digital version, or the PS5 all digital version, excuse me, and then you look at the Xbox Series S, which is also an all digital console, and it looks like the future is going to be digital. But the biggest thing, at least with game consoles specifically, is going to be fact one of the biggest limitations, of course, is going to be storage here. And storage is nothing to really scoff at, because storage is very expensive, at least when it comes to the upcoming PlayStation 5 and also the Xbox Series console. Storage is just going to be expensive, and the truth of the matter is everybody who buys these consoles, especially the people who buy the all digital versions of these consoles, are actually going to need things like more storage, and they're going to be forced to buy more. That's why an all digital future just honestly doesn't make sense, especially when games are going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It just seems like storage is always going to be an issue. I really do still feel like, for me and for a lot of people, the future of gaming one day is going to be a streaming future, just because the biggest thing about an all streaming future like Google Stadia or xCloud is going to be the fact that you don't have to worry about storage, and you can pretty much have access to any game on demand whenever you want, wherever you want, which is going to be a nice future. I know when it comes to that type of thing, we're still many years away from something like that. It's not going to be it's not going to come overnight, just because there are some limitations with that. You have to worry about your data caps at your home potentially being taken up by streaming games. You have to worry about your connection again. How's the connection going to hold up, and things like that. And I just don't think the world as a whole is ready for something like that. And that's why I still think gaming consoles and gaming PCs are still going to be the thing for many years. But with things like a 250 gig download for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, it almost seems like it kind of doesn't make sense to have it digital. But again, this is PC we're talking about, and you really don't have any choice to actually buy this game physical. And for a lot of people, this is going to take a very long time to download, of course. And on top of this game taking a long time to download, you may eat through your data cap relatively quickly for a month, just because 250 gig is insane. I know actually some people out there in my real life who have so slow internet, this would probably take them like a week to actually download at 250 gig, because 250 gig is absolutely insane. So if you wanted to play this game on release day, or if you're thinking about buying it after the fact, have fun trying to download this 250 gig download for this game. And then the last one for today's video is actually going to be about Netflix. You can see here Netflix is raising the price of its most popular plan from $14 up to $18 or something like that. Basically what this means is they are pretty much updating the prices in America. And of course, this is not the first time we've seen price increases in America. They've done this before. You can see right here, $14 a month. It looks like increasing its standard plan, $14 a month. Oh, so the standard plan actually is going to $14 a month, and its premium tier is going to $18 a month. And it looks like that's a $2 increase from $16, and a $1 increase for the standard plan here. But anytime you do raise the prices of these things, it will actually concern a lot of people who are paying for your service. Of course, anytime something increases is not good, of course, for the consumer, but maybe they really had no choice but to increase the prices of their plans, because maybe they're in a situation where it doesn't make sense. Maybe the cost of all their Netflix originals plus all the licensing fees for all the movies and things like that, I can see them potentially having to increase the fee of some of their tiers to begin with. Or it could just be because honestly they are just greedy to begin with, because I know a lot of companies out there don't really have a justifiable reason to increase the prices of whatever. They're just doing it because, well, they can get away with it. And you know, even though there are going to be people who can't pay the extra dollar, a dollar may not seem like a lot, but some people may not be able to justify $1 or $2 increase for their plan and may cut their plan. There'll still be a lot of people who don't see $1 or $2 increase to be really a big hassle or a big deal. And they'll probably keep paying for Netflix here. Honestly, we would hope that Netflix wouldn't increase in price in the long run, but like I said, maybe there's reasons that they actually had to do this. But honestly, it's going to hurt their business as a whole regardless, just because people see an increase in price and a lot of people go, yeah, I'm not too sure if I want to pay extra money for your service. At least the good thing is with most of these streaming services aren't expensive as their cable TV counterpart. If you were to compare this to traditional cable TV, of course, cable TV is nowhere near as cheap as something like a streaming service, so just take that into consideration. But the thing that's really going to sting about this, besides Netflix just going up, a lot of people have more than just one subscription service, whether it's a gaming subscription service, whether it's something like a movie or TV subscription service, or a music streaming service. There are just so many different services on the in the world that you do have to realize everything adds up over time. And if you're paying $1 or $2 more for this service plus the other services you are already paying for, it may be just way too much money, and you may have to cut one of these services, and Netflix could be the one to go if they keep raising prices. Honestly, I wanna know how much longer can they keep raising prices, because at some point they have to say, well, enough is enough, because there is eventually going to be somewhere where people aren't going to really justify the price of Netflix. I guess it's okay as long as they don't go anywhere near the prices of traditional cable TV. Once again, it's in the realm of traditional cable TV. You have to ask yourself, is this thing worth paying for? But I guess the nice thing with Netflix as a whole, if you think about Netflix, is one of the biggest streaming service, and they have one of the best varieties. Regardless, I would still personally argue that Netflix is still the king of streaming when it comes to streaming. When you think of streaming and you think of movies and TV shows, you still think of Netflix, because Netflix is a household name. They have the most variety. They have Netflix originals. They have a lot of good content. And if you were to subscribe to only one streaming service, honestly, I would recommend Netflix. But who wouldn't recommend Netflix? Netflix has the best catalog of everything, so maybe the price hike is actually justifiable since they have so much good movie and TV show things. But then again, you do have to realize they are competing with a lot of different services out there, and especially in 2020 and beyond, there's going to be more streaming services pop up. Like for instance, last year we had the brand new Disney Plus come out, and Disney Plus is extremely cheap. I'm talking like $5 or $6 for Disney Plus, which is way more cheaper than Netflix. Granted, I do own Disney Plus, and what I can say from Disney Plus doesn't actually have the same variety as something like Netflix. If you want a variety for everybody, I think Netflix is still the way to go. And then going to 2020, this last summer, I think we did get a brand new streaming service as well called Peacock from NBC. Granted, I would still argue that Netflix is still the place to go here, but I'm just basically saying is they're in competition with so many other different services out there. They really got to be careful about what they're doing, since a lot of people have so many choices. It wasn't like way back in the day when Netflix came out, there was really no competition out there, so the price didn't really matter. But now people's wallets have a choice to make for this thing, and this is going to be a big deal in the long run. Sure, a lot of people again don't see $1 or $2 to be a really big deal, but that can actually add up over time, and it can actually make people leave your service. And anytime you see a price increase is not a good deal. And also, especially now in the time that we live in, when so many people have problems going on, especially financially, with things like the current pandemic going around in the world, this could actually be a big deal. And that $1 or $2 again could be a big make it or break it for so many people out there who actually pay for this. They may end up canceling their service. But I think for most people, I wouldn't say most people, excuse me, because I don't really know everyone's situation, but I would say for a lot of people anyway, $1 or $2 ain't really going to be a big deal, and most likely they're going to keep subscribing to Netflix. And the interesting thing is, apparently in other places in the world, they've already increased the prices. It's just that in America, they haven't increased the price in quite some time, so they are doing that. And then it looks like also Netflix is introducing these price hikes right away for brand new subscribers to Netflix if you never owned it. And if you are a regular Netflix subscriber and you've been subscribed to Netflix for quite some time, it looks like you still are going to get the price increase. However, you won't get the price increase right away. You are going to get the price increase in a couple of weeks, so just be looked out on that. Honestly, if I was Netflix, I probably wouldn't increase the price right away. If I was going to increase the price, I would probably increase it sometime next year, just due to the fact that 2020 is not a good year, and I would probably give some people some leeway on the price of this thing. And then in 2021, if I really want to increase it, then I would increase the price sometime next year. I just think right now is not a time to increase the price of a service like this, just because, of course, like I said before, a pandemic is going on, and it really makes me question, is the price increase really necessary and really worth it, especially when so many people are in really bad situations in 2020. And yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for today's video. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.